Okay guys, so today I'm going to be talking about my engine swap on my Abarth Punto Grande. I've fitted a Abarth 595 engine in there. If you want to see a little bit more footage about it, I'm going to be driving around basically and just talking about what we've done, all the issues that we've had, and some footage of the actual engine swap. I haven't filmed the whole video as like a tutorial like we normally do. It's quite a big job and we don't really think that it was worth, you know, doing the whole video. It would have been a really long video and probably not a lot of people were actually going to do it. So just going to put all these little clips together. I'll do a little bit of talking about it. So if you want to see that, stay tuned and I'll see you very shortly. Alright, so welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe either way. Okay, so to start off with, I just want to do a little shout out for some of the people in the Abarth community. As always, it's a very good community to have people with advice, spare parts in their garages and stuff like that. So I want to do a shout out for Nabil Septi, who's sent me a couple of parts and given me a few bits of advice like torque settings and, you know, stuff like that. Just generally helping putting the car back together. I want to do a shout out to Jamie McKee as well from Modified Abarth. He's done similar things as well. He's given me some advice and, you know, things that have been sent out to me like oil lines and stuff like that that I wasn't able to get hold of at the time. Obviously I want to do a shout out for Natalie's brother and her dad, Andy and Aidan. They were there at the time of the actual engine swap. They borrowed a crane from one of their mates who was able to, you know, lend it to us for the days that we were able to get the old engine out and the new engine in. And obviously Natalie's been out there helping me, doing bits and pieces, passing me tools and just generally being a bit of a support. It's the first time I've done an engine swap, so all the help was greatly appreciated. And lastly, Ben Owl for sending me the Loom as well. He did a very good job of sending it out ASAP. I needed it to basically blank off a couple of pipes for the intake. Obviously the intake on the Grande and the 595 is different, so to save a little bit of, you know, messing about, I just ended up blanking a couple of the pipes off, like the recirc pipe, put the little cap on the airbox, and that basically helped a lot from doing that. So thanks to all those people for helping us. You probably guessed I am actually driving around in the Grande now. It's on the road, it's MOT'd. There was quite a lot of issues with the actual car itself. I bought the car as a non-runner. I made a video on that, actually collecting the car, bringing it back home. There's also another video that we did on sourcing what the actual issue was. It turned out it was a misfire in one of the cylinders, so we ended up deciding just to do an engine swap. Obviously doing the whole engine rebuild and stuff like that was just going to be too much of a big job. It was just going to be a lot easier just to drop a new engine in there. So that's what we did in the end. So to go over some of the issues that were with the car itself, it was basically sitting for over a year. The guy that had it, that I bought it from, he basically blew the engine, had the RAC or the AA out to come and inspect it, and they just said, you know, the engine's shot. But because it was sitting for so long, there was several issues with the actual car itself. So the front suspension springs were actually snapped, so I had to replace those. So luckily I had the suspension from the Evo. Obviously I fitted the coilovers from doing track days and stuff, so I kept the old suspension from the Evo. So then that's obviously a straight swap onto the Grande. So that was one problem solved. There was the wishbones were really rusty and all the bushes were perished inside there. So I had to replace the wishbones. A few other bits and pieces like the radiator fan resistor had actually gone. We didn't realise that until we'd got the new engine in there and tried starting it up, and then when it was coming up to temperature it was overheating. So we tried troubleshooting it and changing the fan relay and stuff like that from the Evo, because obviously they're the same part number anyway. So we did that, that still wasn't working. Then we thought it was an airlock, so we kept trying to bleed it. That also wasn't working. So the next port of call was the radiator fan resistor. When I took it out, I'm going to put a picture in here now. it was pretty gone. There was, you know, a lot of just wear and tear on there. It's not a very good sealed unit, so it ends up, you know, degrading over time. So stuck a new one in there straight away. The fan kicked in when it got up to temperature, and that was another problem solved. Another issue when we took it for the MOT was the lambda sensor was really coked up. I'm thinking because when the piston went, there was obviously a lot of oil going back through. So in the end, I took it for the MOT. The guy that was MOTing it, he basically called up and said, you know, there's an issue with the lambda sensor. By the looks of it, everything else is fine. One of the engine mounts wasn't torqued down correctly, although I did actually torque it down, so I'm not really sure what happened with that, so I'll re-torque that. I basically went and picked the car up, took it back home for an hour or so, took the lambda sensor out, and I'm going to put a picture in of that now. That was really bad, so I gave that a good clean with some brake cleaner and wire brush, and then I think the cat was a little bit tired as well, because obviously it's been sitting for a while and it is quite an old cat now. So I took it around the block, gave it a good rag to try and clear that out a little bit, put the new lambda sensor in, torqued the engine mount down again and took it back, and it just passed. It was going to fail on the emissions. It failed the first time. It was basically the readings were fluctuating and it wasn't really sitting how it should do, and even when it was sitting it was kind of above the emissions level. But now it is all done, it's all MOT'd, it's on the road. I'm driving around in it now, I'm having good fun. I'm enjoying the sound of that bonnet Loom. It's very good. So I'm going to insert some clips now of the actual engine swap. Like I said, we didn't do a whole video on it, but what we did do is just film little clips here and there, like taking the actual engine out, a few pictures here and there. We did a couple of videos of the first startup, so I'm going to insert all that now, and then after that I'm going to start going through all the differences that there are between the Grande and the 595 engine. Obviously the actual internals, like the actual engine itself, is the same. It's a T-Jet, it's a 1.4 T-Jet, and they come with the same turbo. The actual engine that I bought was from a 595 180 comp, so that originally had the Garrett turbo on there, and my Grande has got the IHI turbo, so some of the lines and stuff like that were different, but I'm going to go into that in a little bit later. So enjoy these little clips and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to go over some of the issues now that you need to change basically when you're fitting a 595 engine to a Grande. It's quite a long list, so I have written it down. I am kind of reading it off my phone because it's very hard to try and remember all of it in in order to re-list it to you guys on camera. So obviously the gearbox is different. So when we got the new engine, it didn't have a gearbox on it, so we took the old engine out, put the new engine on there, put a new gearbox oil in it, obviously service the engine and stuff like that. The alternator and the air conditioning unit, that's like an additional bracket basically that goes on the side of the engine, and the length of the belt was all different, so we had to take that off the Grande engine as well. The intake system is obviously all different, so like I said earlier, with the whole bonnet Loom situation, we've managed to get the 595 engine cover to sit under there. It's very difficult to close the bonnet because the 595 engine sits a little bit higher, so we had to lower down take a couple of brackets off and stuff like that are holding the engine cover from the 595 to be able to fit inside the Grande shell. So we had to lower that down as well. The vacuum hose that goes from the air intake manifold that goes into the brake servo is also different as well, so we just had to swap that over. That was a quick and easy fix. We actually didn't reconnect that at first. We weren't, by the time we got to that, we were kind of starting to forget where things went, so it's a bit of a shit fight towards the end. I had a lot of bags of bolts laying around and, you know, clips and all sorts laying around, so we got to that point and we were a little bit, you know, tired from doing the whole thing. Our brains weren't working properly, so when I first actually started the car and did the first roll forwards, the brake servo vacuum hose wasn't actually connected, so I basically had no brakes. They were working but very slightly. Obviously the vacuum from the servo wasn't actually going into the brake system, so that was a bit of fun. The oil filter housing is different. The 595 sits on a different angle to the Grande oil filter housing, so I had to source one of those. That's where I got it from, Nabil. Also, the lines for the Grande and the 595 are different because of the, you know, the angle of the actual oil filter housing itself. So the lines are different in that sense. They are also different in the sense of the Garrett and the IHI turbo. So the Garrett turbo sits a little bit higher on the engine, so the Garrett turbo lines for the oil and for the coolant are a little bit longer. For the IHI they're slightly shorter because the turbo sits shorter. The pipe that also goes from the water pump, the black pipe, the hard pipe that goes in, that's also different. The flexi that goes into the back of the turbo, so I had to source one of those as well. Everything was kind of like, got one pipe on, wasn't fitting, had to source it, did the next one, that wasn't fitting, had to source it. So I took about over a week just to get the oil filter housing all connected up properly. So that was a bit tedious to say the least. The coolant lines that run from the radiator that go around and into the expansion tank, all of that is different as well, because on the, as you're looking at the engine bay on the 595 engine, the coolant tank is on the top left corner, and on the Grande it's on the bottom right. So all the pipes and stuff like that is all different, so I had to take all of that off the Grande as well, off the engine, and put it onto the 595 engine to be able to redirect it to the Grande expansion tank. There's also the drive shaft bearing that goes on the back of the engine that basically has the bearing in it for the drive shaft and also the brace to hold it in place. That's different as well, so that had to come off of the Grande engine and go onto the 595 engine. The ECU also had to be relocated. The same issue with the engine cover on the 595. I kind of wanted to keep it so that it was basically, you know, people know that it is a 595 engine in a Grande, because obviously why would you do that and then, you know, want to show it off? So I think that's understandable. So I basically had to relocate the ECU where the engine cover sits. You couldn't actually put the engine cover on the engine, so I had to remove the bracket and all the harness clips and stuff like that for the actual ECU and the loom and everything like that. So I had to change all that, and I've had to move it a lot lower down and then re-drill it and fix it into the firewall at the back. You've also got the actual engine loom itself is different. Some of the sensors are different, and the actual length of the loom is different as well. So I had to take the engine loom off the Grande and put it onto the 595 engine so that married up with the ECU for a start, and also the length of it and stuff like that, and some of the sensors were slightly different. Okay, so I'm now going to insert a few clips of the initial start up and from the first driving up and down the roads.
Go for fire. Love the sound of that bonnet. It's a bit different to the GFB of the Evo, but it's just got a different noise. It's quite fun to mess around with. Just going down a few country lanes, just having a bit of fun in the car. I've only been driving it to and from work for the last few days. As soon as I got it running, I'd already been at work for a couple of days, so I had to take it down. I had to get Natalie to drop it off in the morning because it was at the back of where she works, and then I had to go and pick it up on my lunch break, take it back home and do all that stuff that I was saying I was having to do with it to get it to pass the MOT. So I haven't actually taken it out properly and had a good ride with it, so just enjoying it now. I bought the car in January and it's now April, so it's taken 4 months to do. I obviously haven't been doing it like every day. I've had a couple of days break here and there. It was quite tedious and very time consuming, so in that sense, I was just taking it easy. Didn't want to get frustrated with it or bored or whatever like that, so I was just taking my time. And then by the time we actually got round to getting the few final things finished off, I was back at work, so hence the whole thing of Natalie dropping it off in the morning and all that stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. There is going to be some more videos on the Grande and some more on the Evo, and we've also got some more coming up on Natalie's Mini as well. We've got a few things that we need to do on that, so we are going to be trying to catch up with some videos now. We've not really been filming anything because I've just been doing stuff on the Grande, just doing what I'm doing, getting the car on the road, so we've not really been uploading that many videos. Don't forget to share this video. Like I said, if you've enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. The last thing I wanted to say was the gearbox side engine mount. When I actually took it off, I sent it off to Elliot at Powerflex, who made that engine mount for us, which is another video that I've done, so make sure you check that out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it helpful. I'm really happy that I've done it. It's made the car, feel brand new inside. There's so many things that I've changed. It's basically a brand new car now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.